All right. Lessons learned time. Jared, Talon, they're back with me here. I kicked Chris and Joe off. I don't know if we're going to be able to take this seriously. We had some shenanigans going on for the episode.
I did the countdown. Let the record show, Chris, I did the countdown.
He did.
I'm capable of this.
It was funny. Okay, so season 3, we've given you guys a lot of background information. So, or up until season 3, I should say, we started kind of with season 1. So you know who we are. We are Lessons Learned. You know where we are. We are everywhere. But most importantly, we're on YouTube, so you should go subscribe and probably watch us on there.
There it is. Link in the description.
Yeah. Boom. You know when we are, because we release episodes every Monday, first thing in the morning for y'all, so you can hear it on your morning commute.
I was confused for a second.
Yeah. A couple episodes ago, we talked about why we are. And if you want to go that far, we can even tell you how we are, because if you also look in the description, it has the links to all of our recording equipment that we use. So today we are going to talk about the only unanswered question here, and that is what we are. What is Lessons Learned? Right? So I want Jared to lead us off here, because this was Jared's idea. So why don't you go ahead and get us going there, Jared?
Yeah. I really like that, Randy. That was impressive right there.
When you said how we are, I'm just like, what do you mean?
When we are, that one really confused me, but that was good. Yeah, so we have been doing a lot of this stuff, like why did we start the podcast? How do we start the podcast? One question that came up in my mind today, actually, was how'd you say it? What we are? What our conversations are.
Lessons learned?
Like what are our episodes supposed to bring to you? And we talk about our experiences. You know, our experiences turn into your wisdom. And I mean, that pretty much says it. However, I feel like personally, looking at some of our videos and our titles of our content, I think of it as like an answer to a problem, whereas it's not really an answer to any problem. It's our discussion that not only helps us, but it's, us talking about our experiences and kind of hopefully turning it into wisdom for whoever's listening, to you who's listening right now. And it's not so that you can avoid a problem or that you can like skirt an issue altogether, because it's going to happen regardless. You can't avoid it. Like, what does Jordan Peterson say? He says, you can't deny the truth. And that's basically like what's written into existence, But you can go really deep with that. You can't deny the truth. Like, what's going to happen to you is going to happen. You can only control so much, but there's always going to be some issue, some problem that you need to overcome. And our talks, our conversations are not meant for you to avoid that. It's meant to give you some wisdom, hopefully impart some wisdom to you, to help you navigate through these issues if you have similar issues. And hopefully it'll give you an easier time going through that, so you aren't alone, And that's basically my spiel on it.
Oh, cool. All right. So that was a great episode.
And
so
wrap
every
up.
Monday. No, but in all seriousness, yeah, I think Jared really hit the nail on the head, and I'll even admit I was a little confused as to what he was talking about when he brought this up in the chat, but it makes a lot of sense, because, not that we want you to make mistakes, but we know that you're going to make mistakes. We want you to be ready when you make a mistake. We want you to know how to move forward and move past it, and what you have to do to overcome it and grow from it. And that's what this channel and this podcast is all about, is the growth factors. Like, what can you do? Like, can you you need the ability to be able to take your negative experiences and turn it into something positive.
Yeah, exactly. And like nothing in life is black and white. Nothing's good and bad. So like some of the episodes that come to mind is like dealing with loss, relationship issues and stuff like that. It's like we're not trying to get across anything like, hey, this is like the answer to this situation in your life. More than anything, it's like this is how we deal with it. If this ever occurs to you, how are you going to deal with it? And at least like Jared already said it, at least you know that you're not alone in that kind of situation. Like you can listen to other people and you can listen to their experiences and how they felt in that same situation that you're in.
Yeah, if anything, it's just a conversation between people who, none of us are really experts in our fields. Although I know Talon is he's very knowledgeable about finance. Like it fascinates you. It's something you're very interested in. I think you're trying to get your real estate license or something, maybe in the future.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Someday.
So
Yeah, boy.
yeah, but aside from that, I mean, we're normal guys. So hopefully hearing our conversations will just give you a little bit of perspective and just a feeling that you're not alone with whatever you're going through. Hopefully we can provide a diverse enough background, each of us, to where,
Right.
Someone can relate if they're listening.
I think that's what's great. Like you talk about perspective, and I think that's what's so great about our group is, granted that we are all very like-minded people, at the same time, we're all very different people. And I think we all handle things differently. And, you may relate to one of us better than another one. You might relate to Jared better than myself in certain situations. And that's okay. But that's what we're here for. And that's what makes it so great is you're getting 5 different perspectives on a topic, 5 different ways you can look at a problem and 5 different ways that maybe you can fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this is a great opportunity to talk about maybe the importance of failure in our lives.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I think we can only talk so much about why, like what we think people should get from our conversations. Of course, that's ultimately up to you, the listener. But yeah, I feel like this is a good spot and opportunity to talk about failure and why it's important, how it can change us, what role it plays in our lives as human beings.
Yeah, we've talked about
sure.
we've talked about a lot of our own failures throughout the podcast so far. If you go right back to episode 1, all of our, as we called it in that episode, greatest lessons learned so far, was based off of some failure that we had, and taking it and learning from it is, that's the ultimate goal. You have to be able to push forward through these things.
Yeah.
There's no way to learn if you don't have those fails and you have those tough moments. Exactly. That's exactly how you learn in life and how you grow as a person.
Yeah. I mean, where would we be without failure? I mean, if like one, no, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. If there are no issues, like if you're raising a child, and granted, I don't have a child. I mean, I have a dog. That's it. That's the extent of my knowledge there. But I've watched a lot of videos, so maybe that helps me understand this a little bit. If you're raising a child and you make their life so easy to where there are no issues, if you, if like, okay, a good example is like growing up in a rich family. If you grow up in a rich family, you end up feeling entitled and you miss out on a lot of good life lessons. If your parents, if you ask for like the brand new iPhone 13 Max or whatever it is, I don't know what it is at this point, for your birthday that's in a month, and then you get it right away, this $1,300 phone, or I don't even know the prices. I just know it's expensive and it's new. And if you get that right away, then you're going to expect to get everything in your life right away without any trouble. And you aren't going to learn delayed gratification, which I think is very important. Something I thankfully learned when I was very young. And if you don't have any problems, then you're going to miss out on a lot of life lessons. You're going to like miss out on opportunities to build your character as a person. You aren't going to be able to relate to as many people. So I think
I feel like you'd be very close-minded if you grew up in like that very insulated environment as a child, because then you're going to enter like if you ever get away from that and you enter the real world, everything's not going to be the same of like what you expected when you grew up. Not everyone experienced the same things that you experienced, and there's a lot more hardships out there in life than like someone like that in situation would even be able to comprehend. So like what you just said, you won't be able to relate to other people very easily and everything. So yeah, you need those failures and those hard things to learn from, like delayed gratification. Just like that ability to just be like, hey, I like as a kid, like I'll save $5 a week or whatever your allowance was, so you can get that $60 video game instead of buying candy or something like that. So get those things that you actually want in life instead of those like little things that just make you happy in that one single moment or something. That delayed gratification.
Yeah, man. My allowance, I think if I worked extra hard that week. Actually, no, I think it was every time I went on to the job with my dad, he installed carpet. So when I would go and install carpet with him, he would give me $20. So $20 for a day's of work. It wasn't bad when I was like 12 years old. So what I did is I saved up
child labor. I'm kidding.
I saved up $200, which that was tough. As a 12-year-old, $200 is a lot of money. I saved up $200 and I got one of those Razor like motorized bikes. It wasn't.
Yeah.
It was like the motorized like sport bike. That one.
Yeah.
And that thing was a blast. So I learned delayed gratification at a fairly young age, thankfully.
Yeah.
My first
awesome.
one was a PS2.
Oh,
That was your first big saving
too.
That was like my
purchase.
first big like delayed gratification thing that I had to save up for. I think what was interesting, because I think oftentimes, your parents say, well, it's like, oh, well, if you want this, you have to save up and get it. I think the interesting thing in my case was it was my idea. Like I didn't ask my mom and dad for it. I said, I want to save up money to buy this.
Oh, that's cool.
And that's what I did, and you did. And I don't remember, I'm probably 10, 11, 12 years old, somewhere in that same range. And you did the things that kids do. Like you shoveled sidewalks during the wintertime. You had lemonade stands.
Yeah.
For those of you who are younger and listening, sometimes kids did this thing where they'd like set up a table on their street and they'd make lemonade and they'd sell it for like 25 cents a cup.
We wanted
Not that most
money.
of you would know about that.
Dude, there's like so many things you could have done as a kid to earn money like really easily that I didn't think of until I was an adult. And then at this time, if I tried to do it, it'd be creepy. And it's like, I don't know, make like bake brownies or something. And then if you go to church, like I went to church, I could decide to stay for another service and I could sit out in the parking lot during like first or second service of church with my brownie stand, and I could sell brownies to people.
But
I mean,
about,
heck, they would just buy it just because you're a cute kid selling brownies.
Exactly.
Like, when I see lemonade stands, I'll go get a lemonade because I'm just like, oh, like they're doing
yeah.
good things. I don't actually want this lemonade because normally it's like the really trashy lemonade, but it's just like I'll give them money.
right.
Imagine me standing there as a 26-year-old guy, like, hey, I got these brownies. Do you want some?
Yeah, they'd be like, oh, what's in the brownies?
Yeah, people wouldn't trust you.
But think about the
for
lesson
sure.
in and of itself. Like, just to kind of wrap it back into what we're talking about. Think about the lesson in and of itself right from that. Hindsight is 20/20.
Yeah.
You're always gonna look back at stuff, even if you did something well. You're gonna look back at it and think, what could I have done better? And that's the learning part. That's the part we're trying to drive home, is like the ability to be able to do that, to be able to look at a situation that you were in, good or bad, and be able to say, this is what I did well, this is what I did poorly, this is what I need to do moving forward.
Yeah, exactly. And like in a situation like that, you could even mentor and you can give that advice to other people like Jared. Like, I mean, heck, go tell like a kid in your family or someone that's like part of your life. It's like, You want to make some extra money? I have great ideas for you. Don't bother with the
I have all
lemonade
these
stand.
plans. I just wrote them down yesterday.
I'll give you the ideas for 10%.
For 10%.
There you go.
Oh, so something that it's a little bit off topic, but not too much. So if I ever have a kid, I would want to teach them like the concept of investing early on. So we talked about like the delayed gratification of like them saving money, and I would be like a bank account for them. I'd be like, yeah, if you give me your money for savings, I'll give you interest. Like, I don't know how that would work with like a kid, but it's just like, yeah, if you give me your money and you want to save up to something, I'll give you like 10% interest on this situation. Give them like a concept like that. Like, if they let me save their money for them, I can then give them more money in return. See if that maybe changes their eyes in some way.
Yep. The downside is they can't spend that money.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. I'd be like, yeah, you have to give me this money for a year, and in a year I'll give it back to you, but I'll give you 10% with it as well.
That's smart.
I'd be interested if they do it.
I like that.
Yeah.
To bring it back, to loop it back around. Thanks, Randy, for keeping us on track a little bit. So, I mean, like, if you think about it, without failure, we wouldn't really. I'm gonna try not to like sound philosophical and like go deep into it, but this is just what I'm thinking. Like, failure is kind of what gives us meaning and purpose in life, right? I mean, if we didn't have something difficult that we had to work through to build off of, then we wouldn't grow. And failure is not avoidable. I think, let's say, I feel like we don't care about failure when it comes to stuff that we have no interest in, like something we don't care about, like high school. You had subjects that you cared about more than others. And the subjects you didn't care about, if you got like a C minus, you didn't really care because you're still passing. But say you want to be a scientist when you grow up, and you fail, like you get a D minus or an F in your science class on that test, it's going to sting a little bit more. Maybe that's not a good example. Maybe, let's say you have to get your high school diploma, and then you're in your last year, and your teachers are saying, hey, you're going to have to take summer school before you can get your credits. Like, that's going to slap you in the face a little bit more than, just failing a subject you don't like. So I feel like these failures, like, in failure lies the implicit world. I don't know. I don't know how to stop from repeating myself. That failure is important.
Like, the things in life don't become real, like, in all honesty, until you fail at something. Like you just said, like with school, like you fail an exam, you had to do summer school or something like that. Like, that's when things really affect you. Because like when you succeed in something, in all honesty, like you get like that little high of dopamine for a little bit, but then it goes away pretty quickly. But like when you fail, it affects you in a much different kind of way for like a longer period of time, and you grow a lot more from it as well. And you actually had an example right there. When I was in 7th grade, I failed 2 of my classes in 7th grade because like I just didn't do anything. I was going through a lot of hard times at that time in my life, and so I went to summer school in 7th grade. So I went from it was called the IB program. It was like the honor classes. It was like an international honors class and stuff like that. And I went from failing that to go into like summer school and everything like that. And it changed my view on like school. It's like, oh, I guess maybe I should actually try and care about some of these things a little bit. Maybe I should actually care about like my mental health a little bit and everything too. So it was you don't learn unless you have those failures, because otherwise a lot of things in life you can just like kind of skate by, and you can just kind of do things just as is, just like on autopilot, in all honesty, and it doesn't really like affect you until you do have a moment that you fail at something.
And that failure taught you a very valuable lesson, right? Like,
oh yeah,
hey, maybe I should dedicate more time to this.
I mean, at the very least, so you don't have to so you don't have to do that again. It's just like, oh, if I literally did a little bit better on one test, I could have avoided all of summer school. Like, yeah, I would have still had a bad grade, but at least I would have avoided failing the class.
Right. Yeah, I have a similar story. I mean, I was in I was in 7th grade, and the first half of the year I had C's and D's, and I had 1 or 2 F's. Like, it was bad. And then like near Christmas break, I think I was getting like almost nothing but D's and F's. And during Christmas break, I realized, hey, I'm going to fail if I don't, like, I'm going to fail the year if I don't bring this up. And I realized, hey, you know, maybe I could actually take 30 minutes to an hour of my day after school and study and do homework. Like, this was a new concept for me.
That's a crazy concept right there.
You know, the curriculum in school is getting a little harder in 7th grade, and I wasn't able to keep up with it, with my wits or whatever. So then I started to study, and I started acing all of my tests. Like, started getting hundreds on all of my tests, and I was getting nothing but A's, like, just suddenly after Christmas break. And to the point where my classmates actually accused me of cheating. And it was like this deal. Like, that's how big of a shift it was. People were surprised. And then I remember I had to retake this test, and it was like 100-question test, multiple choice. And I was the first person finished with it. And I got 100 on it. And, you know, I got accused of cheating. So then the next day, the teacher sat me down and handed me a new test, because there are like 2 or 3 different versions of this 100-question multiple choice test. And I sat down and I took this 100-question test in like 5 minutes and turned it into the teacher. And they're like, okay, you're good. Because it was just me and the teacher in the classroom, and they just had their eyes on me, and they just saw me just complete this whole test in 5 minutes.
You rolled right into the next point that I wanted to make, actually, pretty perfectly, because with that story, you know, you came into your winter break, you were, you know, pretty much failing everything, and you had a moment where you said to yourself, what am I going to do? Am I going to, you know, allow myself, you know, am I just going to give up? Am I going to allow myself to fail and just be done? Or am I going to really work at it and work hard and study and go after it and try and fix this? You know, and I think that's a tough choice people often need to make when it comes to failure. Like, they don't realize that failure isn't the end. I think so many people fail at something and they're like, well, that's it. I failed. Like, I'm done. I think people need to realize that it's up to you. You have to make a choice. You have that choice in front of you. It's, what are you going to do? You failed. What are you going to do to get better? And that's everything. Like, you know I've talked about sports a lot and the impact that sports had on me, you know, growing up and playing sports and even playing sports now. But, you know, you run into that all the time in sports where it's like you're going through like a slump in baseball. You're not hitting well. Do you just, you know, stew on it and, I guess I'm just going to strike out every time I get up? Or are you going to go to the batting cages and take your extra time and do what it takes to fix it? You have to take that into consideration. Like, what are you going to do to fix it? Or are you just going to let it be as it is?
Yeah. If the thing that you're doing at the time, if you keep failing at it, at some point you're just going to have to take a step back and just have to make a change. And I think that's the greatest lesson. It's like, if something's not working, you just have to change it up at the very least to try something new.
I think that's your duty as a human, is to take control of your failures. Because what I've seen, and it's quite sad to see, I've seen some people do this because I didn't grow up in the nicest area, and my friends, you know, they weren't rich or anything. So there were some poor people around who I've seen, you know, let's see, I'm trying to not,
you're trying to put it in
I'm trying to articulate my thoughts in a way that makes sense. I grew up around some adults who had never really made their definition of failure clear to them, to themselves, and it shows. Because, if you have a failure, it doesn't feel good. And I think it's your duty to actually face that and make a definition of failure, so that way when you see it coming, you can avoid it, and you can take the necessary actions to avoid it. You can study more, you can work harder, you can set an aim that is higher, and it's not going to feel good along the way, but then after you avoid that failure and achieve that success, it's going to feel great. And making your definition of failure clear is difficult, and it's hard. And that means that if you don't put in the hours, if you don't put in the work or study, then you're going to miss the mark, and it's going to hurt because you knew what you had to do and you didn't do it. And I mean, you can avoid that for as long as you want, but one day, maybe when you're 30 or 40 or even 50, it's all going to crash down on you. And you avoiding all of that, like that tough challenge of making a clear definition of failure, it's going to hit you all at once, and then you're going to realize it a little too late, maybe.
Yep. And yeah,
like,
and
so like real fast, but when we started this episode, I couldn't even imagine like talking about something like that, because I've never even thought about it myself. It's really easy for people to talk about failure and growing from failure, but failure is different for every single person. And I've never even thought about like what you literally just said, Jared. What is someone's own personal definition of failure? At what point are you failing at something? And it's different for everyone, and people need to come up with like what is failing in their own eyes. That way they know how they can rebound from it and how they can try and change things in their life for the better. Yeah. I love that.
If you don't set
Define
that
your
definition and make that aim in your life, then if you fail, it's whatever. It doesn't hurt as bad because you weren't aiming at anything.
Mm-hmm.
And to bring the whole thing full circle, because Jared, I think, did it without realizing it. Jared, you mentioned that you don't want people to avoid the failures, right? And you think that's what people tend to do, is avoid the failures. That's not what we want you to do.
Not at all.
Started the episode saying it, bringing it back.
Bringing it back.
That's not what we're here for. And I think with the nature of our podcast, I think it is a common misconception here is that people think, some people think, like I know some of our more really dedicated listeners might take the perspective of, if I follow exactly what these guys do, I'll avoid all the mistakes they've made. And that's great, but you need to make your own mistakes. And your mistakes are your own as well, because you might not make the same mistakes I make. Hell, a mistake I make might be a success for you. So our lives are totally different. Everybody's life is totally different. Something I might view as a failure, you might view as a giant success. It's all a matter of perspective, and that's why, like Jared said, you have to define it for yourself, because you can't. We've tied so many past episodes into this, but just kind of a running theme is you can't compare yourself to others. So many people, a point that I know Chris has made a lot of times. So many people say, "Oh, well, I'm 25 years old and all my friends have moved away and they have girlfriends and they're getting married and they have kids and I still live at home." It's like, you're on your own path. And like, I guess I can put myself into that category because I didn't think I'd still be living at home now. But I also don't necessarily think that I'm a failure for it. I just think things didn't work out the way I thought they were gonna. And now I'm trying to do things to fix that. I'm trying to move forward and learn from the mistakes that I made that put me in that situation. And I think a mistake is not a mistake so long as you learn from it. That's what we're here to do. That's what we're here to teach you, to take those mistakes and have the tools to learn from them, no matter what they are. Whether it's a bad relationship problem or a financial problem or something that happens at your job. We've talked about the full spectrum. We've talked about so many different things and touched on so many different topics, but at the end of the day, all we really want you to do is have the tools to figure it out. Figure it out for yourself.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, we're all lacking in our own ways with whatever failure we're confronted with. And, if I fail a test, maybe I'm stupid. Maybe I wasn't as smart as I thought I was. Maybe I need to study more, or maybe I need to study the right material. So whenever you come across a failure, try to see what it's telling you. Like, where are you lacking? Because there's always something that we could work on. And that's why two of us could fail at the same thing, but we could fail differently. I could be lacking in my knowledge of finances, whereas Talon is not. It all depends. It's all your own perspective, your own story.
I could be lacking in the amount of books that I read because I don't read a whole lot of books. But
I know a way to fix that.
Yeah, we have a great way to fix that. So if you look, everybody, down below at the link in the description for Audible, which you can get free for 30 days if you click that link.
Free 99.
Yeah. And you can listen to all kinds of books, and you can listen to books that might help you figure out how to deal with failure. So you can listen to us and then listen to those books and then listen to your failures and learn from them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
All right. I think I'm going to wrap it up. This has been Lessons Learned. I hope you appreciated this episode because I really did enjoy talking to the guys about it. It was a lot of fun. If you want to continue to follow us, follow our social media pages linked in the description. Like, comment, subscribe to our YouTube. If there's anything you want to hear, any issue you're going through, or a situation you're going through, it doesn't have to be an issue. And you want us to talk about it, we can talk about it and keep you anonymous if you want. Just shoot us a message or comment somewhere and we'll see it and we will try to get back to you as soon as we can. All right. Thank you so much for listening, and until next time,
See ya.
See ya.